In this video, we're going to talk about complex numbers. You can follow along in your packet and fill in the notes on page 5. The standard form of a complex number is a plus b times I, where a is my real component and b is my imaginary component of my complex number. With complex numbers, we can do different operations with them. The first being addition. 2 plus I plus 3 plus 3I. When we're adding complex numbers, it's a lot like combining like terms, where if you want to think about I as a variable and you're combining that like term, but just remember I is a number, not a variable. So here, I would combine my 2 and 3 to make 5, and then my 1I plus 3I to make 4I. The next operation is subtraction. And when we're subtracting, once again, it's very similar to when we're subtracting polynomials, where if I have negative 12 plus 10I minus the complex number 8 plus 7I, I have to remember to distribute my subtraction to making these terms negative. So what I do is rewrite this problem with that distributed negative, and then combine your like terms. So negative 12 and negative 8 give me a negative 20, and then a positive 10 and a negative 7I give me a positive 3I. Next we have multiplication. 3I times 4 plus 2I. Once again here, you're going to distribute. When you have a complex number that's not just this like this 3I, if it was negative 5 plus 4I, which is the next example on your packet, you would use FOIL in order to multiply out. So here, 3I times 4 gives me a 12I, and then 3I times 2I gives me 6I squared. And from previous notes, if we remember that I is equal to a square root of negative 1, so then the I squared would be the square root of negative 1 squared, which when simplified is just negative 1. And so then I can rewrite this to say, I can rewrite 6I squared to say negative 6. And then if I want to get my complex number back into the standard form, I would say negative 6 plus 12I. The last operation is division. And so if we have 5 plus 3 plus I, the tricky part here is you cannot have an I in the denominator. So you have to multiply the entire fraction by the conjugate. And the conjugate here is if you have 3 plus I, the conjugate would be 3 minus I. And so we multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate, and I would get 5 times 3 minus I over 9 minus I squared, which from before we know that we can simplify to a negative 1, making this 10, the reason I did not distribute this 5 is because in the end we can simplify, and I'm left with 3 minus I divided by 2.